All right, Matt, Craig, and Ollie here. We're making our way through the anniversary box, and we've made it to Let It Loose.
Yeah.
Rolling Stone.
Lyric?
Yeah, reference. And this is a collaboration beer with Side Project. Pretty interesting story, but I'm going to pour the beer first because these guys look pretty thirsty.
Yeah, please.
All right. An Imperial Stout with a really cool story. It's actually a small beer, believe it or not, at 11.5%. So Corey King from Side Project came out, agreed to do a collaboration. Yeah, I guess it would be late 2021, early 2022. We're talking about this beer we want to make. We got to get it on the calendar so that we can get it released for the 2022 club. And he's going with the flow. We're talking about this recipe. And we get to barrel aging and release time, and he's like, whoa, guys, I like to age everything at least 2 years before release.
Glad one of us likes to do that there, you know. We don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, and we're like, well, Corey, that's a little bit of a problem because we need to release it in the 2022 kit. So we did a little more brainstorming, and we came up with this, what I believe to be a pretty good idea that we've now replicated on other collabs. Of making the two threads, or the first wort beer and a second wort, the big beer and the small beer. So that involved doing two mashes. First mash, running off all of the strong first wort even before we're sparging, run off the second wort to a second kettle, do it again. That collects enough wort in the two kettles for two beers. All the time we are simmer boiling those two brews, so we're reducing, getting a higher gravity, reducing, taking vapor off, water off of those brews, fermenting them both separately, and essentially creating two beers from a single mash. And typically when you do that, I guess back in traditional English brewing times, you may even blend those beers back to get to a normal strength, or you may have a very, very mild or low alcohol beer and one regular strength beer. In this case, we ended up with a beer that's almost 40 Plato as the strong beer, and the secondary beer with all things considered over 20 Plato, something like clocking in at 27 Plato as a small beer. So by no means would we consider this small, probably that's as strong or stronger than the very first Parabola brews we ever did. It's an incredible malt bill, and I'm going to have to look at my phone to call it up because I can't memorize it all. And this is just the way that Corey rolls. He likes to throw the entire specialty malt book into the brew. So obviously we have some base malt, 2-row. There's some wheat in there, and it's not an insignificant amount. There's Weyermann Munich. There's blonde roast oats. There's crisp caramel malts. There's Weyermann German Carafa. There's crisp English black malt. There's Briess roasted barley. There's rolled oats. There's dark malt extract. There's brown sugar. I mean, I don't think I've hit.
No.
Yeah. No. It's a crazy malt bill. But the more I listen to these guys talk about the beers they make, and certainly the more I taste, especially the Side Project beers, and I think that was one of the beautiful things of Corey coming out, is he brought a bunch of his beers, and we really got a chance to taste them as a group and really understand where he's coming from. Because, on the telephone, he's like, yeah, I want to throw all this stuff in there. We're like, yeah, okay, all right, buddy. We'll just do it for you. And then he comes out and pours his beer, and they're absolutely beautiful and gorgeous beers. So I think this is one of those times where the hope is that some of that love rubs off on the brewery, on the collab, and some of that magic comes through. So we also committed to doing adjuncts on the quote-unquote small beer. So yes, there was some sugar added, and we also added toasted cashews,
Yep.
Sea salt,
Yep.
and a touch of vanilla beans. So this is certainly an adjuncted stout. Why don't you guys clue us in on what you taste here?
To me, it's like a dessert in a glass right here as far as flavor and aroma. It almost, to me, tastes like a banana split in a glass. Are you getting that too? Because I'm just getting vanilla, I'm getting dark chocolate, I'm getting cherry, and I'm getting a little bit of banana in there too. That just adds this like really cool overall flavor.
No bananas were harmed in
No
making this
bananas
beer.
were harmed in making this beer.
Somebody
but
might have mentioned it at some point, but no banana chips.
Yeah, no banana chips are in here, but I think this is it's a super interesting, again, as close as we get to a pastry stout in this brewery as possible without the pastries type of beer.
I think, I mean, to me, the thing that differentiates it, I mean, there are thousands of imperial stouts with vanilla, bourbon barrel or whiskey barrel aged, and many of them are very good. And I think this is a very good beer, but I think that this beer does kind of encapsulate Corey's vision, or at least his brewing technique, because the mouthfeel on it is just something totally different, at least than with a lot of our beers. I always conceptualize Parabola in particular. It's a pretty lean and mean beer as far as it goes, and of course you get some character from the bourbon barrels that we age it in, and even some mouthfeel complexity. But I think that maybe that's why he's so devoted to so many different malts in it, is it just drives this really velvety texture that almost makes up for carbonation at some level. And then when you add in the barrel aging and then the hazelnuts and the sea salt, and it all just makes it a perfectly round beer. What did I say?
Hazelnuts.
Hazelnuts. Cashews. They're cashews, excuse me.
Yeah, I think the nuts worked to help round out the mouthfeel. And when he poured his beers for us, I think that was one of the striking things that we probably didn't take all the way to the level he does, but we lowered the carbonation a little bit. Corey oftentimes has beers that pour almost still, and again, on paper, that doesn't make sense to me. And then when I taste the beers, it's almost wine-like in their texture. So, you're kind of hearing it. There's a lot to be learned in this collab.
We also don't use nuts very often in the brewery, and
Right.
and that was one our innovations brewer called bullshit on. He didn't think cashews were going to do a goddamn thing. And I actually, afterwards, we tasted it the next day after we did the recirc, and he was blown away with how much cashew actually came through. So,
In terms of the barrels, Eric sourced Willet wheated whiskey barrels.
Wheated whiskey.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that plays in really well with the little bit of wheat that was in the recipe, and maybe there's a little bit of the essence of the banana
That could
character
be.
coming from those barrels. I don't know, but a barrel that we're not typically using in the program. So absolutely love this beer.
I always get a lot of marshmallow from wheated whiskey.
Yeah. So, an absolutely beautiful beer. Thanks to Corey and Side Project for engaging in this project.
Absolutely.
And if you sign up for the 2023 club, you'll get to taste the big beer, which is that's the one, man.
that's the money.
Yeah.
That's the money.
That's going to be the one.
This
that I'm
one's
waiting
pretty
for.
damn good. I just finished my glass.
All right, there you go. Let it loose.
Let it loose.
Cheers.